Hi, it's Jo and Steve from Freshagenda. Back with another not very weekly update.
It's been a bit of a break. We've had a 3-week break. We tend to do these things with GDT events because they're a good way to get people focused.
So this time,
the burning question
is, has the market turned? Does one swallow a spring make?
Yeah, that's harsh. It's been happening for a little while, but but that's good. An interesting event with not all the data we would have liked. And you've got another stunning chart of the week to wrap us up.
Absolutely.
But what's changed? So if this question of is the market turning or has it turned, what's actually changed in the last little while? So we asked this question. So look, New Zealand, yes, got very wet again, stayed wet, and that isn't really being talked about much as being a big impact on anything.
No, certainly not at this stage of the season.
No. We are seeing some small rises in feed grain prices, a lot to do with South American weather. So they're going up slowly in all regions, it seems. A lot of expectation. I think the big thing that's probably driving this more optimistic view of the market going forward is that China's economy is reopening, recovering, and that it's all going to come back.
Yeah.
But I saw something a couple of days ago on what is left of Twitter, which had commodity price levels that were quite buoyant as the reopening was called, and then we went into New Year. It's all fallen back. So
the reality of living with COVID might be.
What we've all been through.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe that should be in the who knows column.
Could be, yeah.
And then, there's a bit of discussion that inflation has peaked, particularly in the US, even here in Australia. Yeah. So that's probably giving people a little bit of optimism. And then the who knows is, are we going into recession? There's differing views on that, isn't there?
Yeah, well, I mean, particularly in Europe, I think higher living costs are going to be with them for a while. Interest rates are still going, they're going to go up, but also just their energy and food prices are going to stay elevated for a while.
Yes. And
the impact of that, and we also pulled out something not in one of these videos, but just looking at the impact on households in those two big regions, that the EU is more exposed to pressure.
At a household level.
That's right, yeah.
So dairy. We've got a bit of a slowdown in US milk output, just as margins are getting a bit tighter.
The herd stopped growing. Yeah.
And some more data out about replacements that really underline that today. Rising EU spot milk prices.
Yeah, the EU market's turned around. I mean, cream's on the way up, spot milk's back on the way up, even though it's from a low base. Prices in the air, we'll see that shortly. There's been some rising. It's almost like it's time. And the lead up to this event, there was some pretty positive futures action.
Yes, in the background. So which we'll look at a bit. And then in the who knows column, we've got El Nino. Is it coming? What impact is it going to be? They're all a little different, aren't they?
Yeah, but nothing, impact. No groundswell.
No.
So looking at just across the boards with where futures, just about everything's on the way up, except we'll come to cheese. So strong gains in the last week, this is, across the exchanges, and then just reminding relativities of all those different lines. And New Zealand's still commanding a bit of a premium, evidenced on GDT, though it wasn't as good as expected by futures. And then the US still languishing the bottom of that league table. Right. Whole milk, the front part went up. The Pulse result was taken as quite positive last week. And this is all about China coming back.
Sure.
The expectation that was going to happen. With butter, well, very positive in Europe. you see it's got a long way to go back up.
It certainly has, yeah.
It bounced around the 4,000 level in 2020, and we're back there, but starting to lift. It's a while before we see milk tightening to any extent. I think this is about buyers coming back and covering. And prices got to a level where it's probably realistic that's as far as they'll go. With the fact that the flush in milk is a short-term thing.
Yes.
But that's the US has also lifted. Not much happening on the NZX futures, however. And then Europe well above what's going on in Oceania. In cheese, it's the other story. It's a different story. So US market is still weakening. Futures still going down. And there's a hefty difference between barrels and blocks.
Yes.
And European prices still in free fall. It's a really sharp decline. Makes the COVID decline, which was scary at the time, makes that look tiny.
Yeah.
Over in April 20, but that's still plummeting, expecting that they're overproducing with the demand that's expected to be weak.
Yeah. But really it's heading down to those levels that we saw pre-COVID.
Yep.
Isn't it?
And you see the difference there, and that's a post-GDT result there on New Zealand cheddar, but there's daylight between the regions. So
yeah, interesting.
Whether that can be held. So this event was, I'd call patchy. I mean, I think the fats were great.
Yes.
It's a really good result. And that's they weren't particularly low prices beforehand, so it's bid up. It's still below European prices, as you can see, but that's good result. Whole milk powder was about the strength of demand, and skim quite insipid.
Yes. Yeah. Bit of a flat spot there.
The skim result was mixed. We saw New Zealand's price go down a fraction, $5 on average, or for the C2 contract. European prices went up, and the US had a shocker. And the US price, as a result of the auction, was nearly $200 below the European price.
Yeah.
Which is, I'll be glad they turned up. And we didn't quite get to, after all that, the latest pulse result.
Yeah, didn't quite achieve that. So that's interesting.
Sorry, we've got no data.
People will be so disappointed that we can't go through all of these demand charts.
We only ever go through 3 of them. It's just these 2 here, which I think tell an interesting story about how an event unfolds. And it's almost like without that, this is just, it's not much of a story. You'd have to think that whole milk powder was stronger, butter and AMF would have been tearaway, and skim was probably weak.
Likely.
I reckon.
Likely story.
The data comes out in a few hours. There won't be a supplementary video to cover it. So sorry. So just looking at the main indicators of buying strength, yes, China went up in whole milk powder, nearly the best of the season, just a couple of 100 tons below that. Their skim milk powder also picked up.
Yep.
But still well down, but they're still well above where they've been in the past. Naturally, Southeast Asia, when China goes up, these guys go back.
That's right.
So not to disappoint. And here's a couple of interesting things. I mean, there are some other buying indicators that were interesting. I mean, South America comes in from time to time when they bought some more whole milk.
Bargain.
Yeah, they see a bargain, and that's around those other regions. There was good demand across the board. So the powders are very focused on the major 2 buying regions, but in terms of fats and cheddar, you get other interests. So fats was well supported across regions.
Yeah.
So pretty positive.
Wow, that's that recombined value and the whole milk powder value has really closed up, hasn't it?
Particularly when you look at the European skim, using that, but when you also looking at the US,
right.
yeah.
Interesting.
So it is interesting. That's come back together, and the fats are close together as well. So
nature is healing.
It is, yeah. Joe, what have you got? Oh, I should have built a bit of anticipation there. Joe, chart of the week. What have you got?
Well, talking about China, and I guess this is the big thing that we're all watching, the China whole milk powder stocks to use. It's been pretty flat through the year. The latest result in December again, flat, but well above other years. That's the key issue. So, you know, appears that they've still got plenty of stocks in hand, and you've got some other little additional charts
that will fly in
just
to round this story out. So we just to quickly say, we buy data, and a lot of people know about this data, but BOABC out of China provides a balance sheet estimate, which is useful. Have a crack at that. So what we've got is the fact that out of that, behind that stocks to use number, is the fact that their monthly output is still growing year on year. It's only 20,000 tonnes a month, but when you add up all those
months,
it adds up.
Yes.
So, you know, we've seen, I think it's something like 160,000 tonnes additional produced in the year. And with demand being down, because their internal demand is quite sad, that's why the stocks to use is up. You know, it's gone up. Just on this issue of whether China's milk is tightening or not, or getting not tight, rather than saying loose, according to the latest data, early February, their average milk prices were still falling.
Yes.
So with feed prices as high as they are, you'd expect that if that milk is starting to tighten, if fresh demand was pulling enough milk away from drying, you would see that starting to lift. It isn't yet.
No.
So watch this space. That's probably why they didn't come thundering back.
Probably.
This is a bit in store.
Yes.
So, okay, that's good. That's all from us. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure where we'll be by then. Yes, we'll be here. All right. So thanks for watching. See you soon.